Hello and welcome. Today we're going to discuss digital citizenship and the impact it can have in our world of education and different elements that we should take into account of as we move forward with digital learning. To begin, first I want to introduce myself. My name is Hernandez, and I am a digital learning coach in Spring ISD at Wenatchee High School. Previously, I was a career and technical education teacher that focused on teaching 3 courses: Introduction to Computer Science, Principles of Informational Technology, and Touch Systems Data Entry. Moving into my new role this year, I am a digital learning coach and I'm focused on blended learning, researching and bringing educational technology tools to the classroom environment, empowering and coaching teachers, and supporting and helping the community understand technology. As we continue with this presentation, I'm going to discuss the 9 elements of digital citizenship and how I use this in my role to do what I am focused on in my role of digital learning coach. The 9 elements of digital citizenship comes from the book created by Mike Ripple, Digital Citizenship in Schools. It was published with ISTE standing for International Society for Technology and Education. Should you want to learn more, I would highly recommend this book, as it's where I'm going to continue pulling research from as we move forward into the next slides. So what are the 9 elements? The 9 elements are listed on this slide, and as you can see, the 9 elements take into account a lot of varying topics. Now, the 9 elements were not created to be rules, but rather a guide for educators as we move forward and take on more blended learning and take on more online learning in our classroom settings. Again, this is only a guide. It is not rules. So I will share with you how I am going to guide my teachers and community with these 9 elements moving into this school year and beyond the school year into the future. We will begin with digital access. Digital access is when digital citizens have the ability to participate in our society. With digital access, there is a hindrance right now called the digital divide that is facing our nation. Some students are not able to connect to their school because they don't have the resources they need to be successful. They don't have Wi-Fi hotspots. They don't have laptops, Chromebooks. And what we're currently facing is the need to fill that gap or fill that digital divide. And as educators, what we can do is we can create lessons with that in mind, that maybe not our students have everything that we may have as educators to help them. So we need to create things in mind that would help them succeed. We need to remain flexible in that process, as we do in our districts move maybe to one-to-one, as we're actively trying to get families what they need during this time. We also, as educators, need to advocate for net neutrality. Currently, that is something that is repealed in our nation, but if we had net neutrality, it would really help getting our students fair and equal access to the internet. For more information, I did cite Common Sense Media, Common Sense Education, because they have it laid out what's currently happening in our nation, in our cities, in our local areas, to help us figure out where to begin and how to figure out and problem solve how to get everybody equal digital access moving forward. Because of COVID, this really has become a hot topic, and I'm glad it's become a hot topic because we do need to do better, and we do need to get our students digital access, and we need to get our educators digital access. I know there's some situations where laptops may not be updated, and that's another conversation that we need to be having in our schools as educators. So digital commerce is the electronic buying and selling of goods. It's when you make purchases through apps such as, or websites such as Amazon, eBay, Google Play, how basically anything you buy online, that's digital commerce. And what's of a concern right now is hackers will diligently try to steal information to cause harm, whether that be credit card, banking, personal identifiable information. They are trying to do that. So you want to make sure as a digital citizen that you are practicing and role modeling for your family members, your students, best practices in regards to buying online. You first want to make sure that you're researching the company, check reviews before you make your purchase, that it's a legitimate site or app. Make sure it's safe and secure. And then if anything should happen, because human errors happen, please report. Please contact your bank immediately. Please report the site itself and find a way to hold that person accountable, because it's not okay for this to be happening, but it is on us as digital citizens to also make sure we're practicing good digital commerce in our daily lives. Digital communication is electronic exchange of information. So in essence, it's emailing, it's text messaging, it's video calls. It's anything that kind of resembles offline communication that would be digital communication. And what I would say as educators is make sure when you are communicating with each other, with students, with parents, with anybody, even your peers, that you practice and this process called STEP, which means stop, think, empathize, and then post. You know as well as I do that anything communicated online does not go away if you delete it. There are several ways to screenshot and save data and information. So you want to make sure you do those steps, that you stop, think about what you want to say, empathize with the person if you are upset, or try to seek to understand in essence, and then post. There are cyberbullying laws that go to digital communication that you want to make sure you're following district policy. And you also want to make sure you're following your district's communication policy, as that will be changing most likely as we continue with online learning. And you want to also make sure you're picking educational technology tools for your classroom that will be a benefit and not a hindrance. So that's very important when it comes to digital communication with our communities. Digital literacy is something that we are all taking on as we are moving into blended hybrid online learning systems. And in essence, it's the teaching and learning of technology. Whether it be hardware technology or software technology, we are all learning. And it's exciting, but it can be overwhelming at times because there is so much to learn, especially if you are just beginning. But like I said, there are a lot of things that you can look to that are free. I highly recommend, if you are beginning, or if you're even medium, or if you're even an expert, continue learning through these sites. Common Sense Media Education, GCF Learn Free, or Be Internet Awesome are great things and to begin learning and share lessons with your colleagues, with your admin team, and with your students to get us on the track of success. We currently are on that, but like I said, there's so much to learn. In my role of digital learning coach, this is in essence what I take on daily, and I'm hoping in your districts that digital learning coaches or educational technology specialists join your team so they can help guide educators in this path, because it is a lot. But like I said, it's exciting. Embrace the lifelong learning of it and be willing to teach yourself and others everything you learn as we continue to grow. Digital etiquette is the standards of conduct and procedures. So this is setting classroom expectations for both offline and online use. I know prior to COVID, we were mainly focused on maybe offline classroom expectations, but as your districts move to one-to-one or blended learning, you are going to have to start focusing on what are the classroom expectations with online use. And it's not just for CTE teachers anymore, it's for all teachers. So you want to make sure You set those expectations for your students. You also want to, if there's an acceptable use policy that your school or district has adopted, that you're aware of it and you follow those acceptable use policies. Make sure your students are aware of that. And then you also just want to keep practicing respect of others online as you would offline. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean that respect isn't given both online and offline. So you do want to make sure you're practicing proper etiquette. Again, empathy is very important when it comes to digital etiquette. You like, just because you can't see someone in real time does not mean that you shouldn't respect them. So just practice that step process that I mentioned earlier and empathize with others even in this world. I liked this quote: empathy asks that when interacting with others, we consider their thoughts and feelings before we act. So try to walk a mile in someone else's shoes and then react. Because again, we're all human. You want to make sure you are aware of that even in our digital settings. Digital law is the electronic responsibility for actions and deeds. So digital law, there are new laws being implemented and discussed even right now when it comes to how digital citizens should, in essence, hold their responsibility and act. And as digital citizens, we should be part of that conversation. Most of the time we are part of that conversation. But if you currently feel like you're not, seek out ways that you can be part of that conversation, because digital law will affect not only digital citizens, but we're all digital citizens. It affects all of us. So you want to make sure you're part of those conversations and seek out stakeholder input if you are a leader or a school administrator, because we need to talk about it. Digital law, there is one law that in particular was brought up last year that affects digital communication in the state of Texas, and that law, not many people are aware of it, but I was informed by it because my father is a school law enforcement officer. So again, with that in mind, you want to make sure you're partnering with your school administrators as educators, school law enforcement, and human resources. They would have the best information and go-to information when it comes to digital law and how it's affecting schools. You also want to make sure, if you're in one of those three roles, that you are continuously seeking out new information. And then you want to teach students and each other how to navigate through those laws. What does this law mean? How do I interpret it? And how do I move forward from here in my current role with that law? So some of the laws, you want to make sure you're following FERPA, COPA, all that stuff, because it is important that we follow those laws. Those laws are set there for a reason, and you just want to be aware, make sure you're doing your due diligence. Digital rights and responsibilities are when digital citizens, we have rights, free expression, are very similar to our offline rights, but we also have responsibilities. And those responsibilities mean that, yes, you may be able to say what you want, free expression, but you also have a responsibility to be aware of what you say and how you say it towards someone else, because cyberbullying is a thing, and there are cyberbullying laws set in place. And again, just because you have the right to say something, you want to make sure it also does not conflict with your responsibility to be a good digital citizen. Going back to the empathy part. So make sure you're respectful even online. Be aware before you say something or post something. And then also, copyright law is a big thing as digital citizens. You want to make sure you're following copyright laws, that you cite any work you use from online. Just because you can screenshot or copy and paste something does not mean it's yours for free. You want to give credit. You want to make sure you follow Creative Commons licensing. And if you aren't aware of those laws, then partner with your school librarian. They are the best person to go to for that information. If you have an educational technology specialist or a digital learning coach, that's the next person I would go to. And then spend classroom time talking to your students about this. And this is for any content area, English, math, span any content area, really does need to be aware of their digital rights and responsibilities. Because as we create in this online atmosphere, Copyright law will play a big part in that. Digital health and wellness is the physical and psychological well-being of being in a technology world. So ergonomics. Ergonomics is basically how you set up your work environment physically in order for you to work effectively. So if you're not using proper technique and posture while you're typing, if you're not using a correct keyboard, if your setting is not set to where you are comfortable, then you may be causing physical and psychological harm to yourself. So you want to make sure you're practicing good ergonomics and role modeling that for your students. You also want to be aware of your time online. I know right now we are spending so much time online, and internet addiction is real and a thing that is of great concern for everybody. So take breaks, take brain breaks, go for a walk offline. Even as a digital learning coach, you need, and I advocate for those breaks, you need time to get away from the computer. While I love technology, please don't absorb technology to where it's a physical and mental hindrance. Currently, a lot of counseling departments are working to practice mindfulness trainings with their schools and educators and communities. So take advantage of those opportunities. Make sure that you, again, are just role modeling that need for your students as well, for them to take breaks, and stay informed and share with others any ideas you have to make digital health and wellness more effective for everybody. This is something everybody's taking on, and I'm hearing more buzzwords about how we can do better with our digital health and wellness, so that's exciting as we continue to grow. I highly recommend you watch The Social Dilemma by Netflix. It was a documentary released just recently, September 2020, and that has to deal with social media and how that psychologically can affect our mental health as well. So I do recommend that. You should watch that. It was very enlightening, and that's a way to stay informed and share it with others, like I'm doing now. Digital security is the precautions that are set in place to guarantee our safety as digital citizens. So, most districts will have a cybersecurity or an informational technology department. Please make sure you are going through the trainings from your IT department, and maybe even coming from your human resources department, these trainings, but they are important. And they're important because they protect our hardware, our software, our personal, school, and community security. Um, right now, because hackers want to try to get our personal information, especially in schools. Schools are a big hotspot. We need to make sure as educators we're doing everything we can to assure our safety. It's very easy to sometimes trip up, but don't be ashamed if you do. Just report it, because it's important that we take care of each other. Digital security is more important than ever at this time as well. So training is important. Practicing best practices is important. Teaching your students those best practices. If you see something that's a little out of line or contradicts a training or something you heard in terms of digital security, let them know, hey, stop doing that. We're not doing that. And tell them why. I mean, just let them know, look, it's a safety concern. We focus a lot on offline safety, but we now more than ever have to also focus on online safety and why they should or should not be doing certain things. I know educational technology tools are available and some have been blocked in some districts. Please, it's okay to ask why those have been blocked, but please also be aware that maybe your district blocked those because of a security reason that you are not aware of. And like I said, don't be afraid to ask questions, and questions are important. And to ask for and advocate new tools are important as well. But most of the time, there is a process that needs to be followed to assure the safety of our schools and to assure the safety of our things. And IT, cybersecurity departments are responsible for making sure we are safe and secure. So if there is a process, follow the process, and just help us navigate this world and help us protect each other. Problem solve when you can, and if we continue to take care of each other in this world, I think we will continue to see that we're better off. But again, just digital security is very, very, very important now more than ever. So I hope you enjoyed the quick overviews of the 9 elements of digital citizenship. As you can tell, there's so much that goes into each element that I can go on and on about what we need to do as digital citizens to continue to be good digital citizens, but it really does start with just being aware and reaching out for help and being a lifelong learner. Growing in this process is important, and just being a participant. Participate in these discussions and ask important questions, because this is our part of our rights and responsibilities, and partner with your administrators or with your digital learning coach and continue to just grow. I'm excited for what's to come, what has come, and to continue being part of this digital citizen world that we are now part of. And if you have any further questions, you can follow me at Spring into DL, my Twitter, my educational Twitter account. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me. And I hope you got something out of this. Thank you.